Welcome to Embody Your Brilliance, a podcast for visionary daughters of immigrants and creative entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Eunice Kimian, somatic life and business coach, mom, and Korean American eldest daughter of immigrants. Each week, you'll hear stories, insights, and conversations to help you embody your unique brilliance beyond survival mode so that you can design a life you actually want and grow a peaceful, profitable business you're proud of that supports you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Embody Your Brilliance. I'm your host, Eunice Kimian, and welcome to this week's episode. So today I want to talk about the concept of action precedes clarity, meaning action comes before clarity. And this is a lesson that I've been learning time and time again. And it's something that was really hard for me to understand, or I didn't even know that it was a concept earlier on in my entrepreneurial journey. So I don't know about you, but when I feel really clear on something and I know exactly what my goal is, I know why I'm doing it, I know the plan, I know the next steps, then execution comes really easy to me. Because when I feel focused on what it is that I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how it all is connected to my larger goal, then I'm so motivated that I feel unstoppable. But I've also had seasons of my life in business where it's like, what am I doing? Like, what's the plan? What do I want? How do I get there? What's the best next step? How do I say it? When it feels unclear to me, then I get so frustrated because it feels like my skill set is being so underutilized. My potential is not being realized. I know if I could just apply myself and feel clear on the goal and clear on the plan, I know I can do so well. And I think that brews such deep frustration in me. And so I used to chase clarity. And the thing is, chasing clarity doesn't necessarily lead to clarity, like you can't think harder to get to clarity sometimes. And I think as an overachieving, hardworking eldest daughter of immigrants who used to just grind and hustle and be awarded for it in school, in corporate settings by my parents, that would be my approach to when I'm figuring out, what should I do next in my business? How do I make it profitable? Do I do one-on-one coaching? Do I do this? Do I start my newsletter? I would try to think my way into what is the answer, right? And what I learned is that action needs to happen in order for it to inform me what is the best next step. So it's sort of this chicken and egg problem where it's like you want to take action, but you only want to take action when you feel clear. But the thing is, you need to take action in order to know if it's the right way to go, right? So let me ground this in an example. So when I got pregnant, things really shifted inside me, personally, spiritually, all the things, but also in my business. I felt like creatorship energy coursing through my body, like as I'm literally growing this baby inside me. It's like I had stuff brewing that I wanted to share because I had been on a hiatus in terms of sharing content, selling publicly. I had been supporting people, but I hadn't been showing up publicly and feeling really clear about my business because I had been going through so many different changes. So I knew that I wanted to take action, but I felt so stuck because I was like, I have so many things that are uncertain and up in the air right now. As I navigated my pregnancy, there was so much uncertainty around how my pregnancy was going to go, how my birth was going to go postpartum, who am I going to be, what am I going to like, what am I creating in my business? There were so many question marks and uncertainty in the air, let alone the uncertainty in the collective air, that I didn't know how to express what was coming out, what was wanting to come out. And I had felt an urge to update my one-on-one coaching offer and start selling that. I had an urge to write my newsletter again, to resurrect my podcast, do some sort of workshop, maybe a retreat. So my creative inspiration brain is just like flooding with ideas, and I'm always brimming with ideas. That was never my problem. In fact, it became a problem when I get so overwhelmed and frustrated that like I don't know which idea to pursue, or I'm pursuing all of them at once and I get this like I feel like I'm gonna burn out and I don't want to burn out. So it's this whole thing of what do I pursue? What is the right action to take? And I think that often put me in this stalling mode of paralysis. Like I don't know which one to do. I don't know how to do it right, which there is no real objective right answer either, right? And each time I mustered up the energy and the discipline to put something out there, something held me back. And I remember I was going back and forth between updating my one-on-one coaching offer and writing my newsletter again. I would move the calendar invite from today to the next day, to the next day, to the next day, to the next day. Like 5 months had passed where I'm just moving that Google Calendar event to the next day. And to be fair, I was very busy at the time. I was juggling my full-time 9 to 5 job, my first 2 trimester of pregnancy. We were moving homes. There was a lot of family stuff going on. Realistically, I had a few hours a week to work on my business in that season of my life. At the same time, I couldn't shake this deep down feeling in my body that it was time to create. It was time to launch. It was time to put something out there. And I just really didn't want to suppress that desire any longer. And I often waited for 100% clarity before taking action. And I really want to validate that part of myself and maybe you, if you go through that it makes sense. Our inner protector or our survival brain is constantly scanning the path ahead for any danger, failure, embarrassment, or the wrong move, and really waiting for reassurance that everything will work out. But the truth is, clarity doesn't come from just thinking alone. It comes from moving. Like in that mode of action, in the movement, you can also feel in your body, oh, that's the right move. This feels good. When you are in the process of publishing, when you publish it, you feel something in your body, and that's a response. And like you need to be able to respond to what you just put out in order to even know like and calibrate, is this the right move? And it's not to say that we're not thinking at all and not doing any sort of preparation, any sort of discernment before taking a micro action. But the folks that I tend to attract, and also who I have been for most of my life, is that I'm incredibly intentional. I think through a lot of things before an action. I will never have to worry that the survival part of me, the eldest daughter in me, the Nuna in me, the big sister in me, will never just do something with zero care, with zero intention. So I can always count on that part of me to think through, does this make sense? Is this something that is aligned, right? But I really need to make sure that the other parts of me are also in leadership when I'm taking action like this, so that it's not just that part of me that's just like thinking really hard, caring a lot. I love her, but it can't just be her driving the ship, or else I'm just going to be thinking forever and not taking any action, right? And the inner protector in us will never feel done scanning for threats, because that's literally their job, right? Our nervous system, our survival brain is always scanning for threats to keep us alive. And that is their literal job. That is their function. And so it won't go away. This problem won't go away. So what do you do about it, right? Rick Rubin, who wrote The Creative Act, A Way of Being, he wrote, "The work reveals itself as you go. It tells you what it wants to be." So similarly, I feel that my business talks to me. It's my creative expression talks to me by asking what it needs, what it wants. And for me to take aligned action, it shapes the path of, it's like you take one step and the next step appears. You know what I mean? But if you just stay still, you don't see the path. So you got to be able to move in order to see the path. And I think if you're used to being perfectionist, and also if you were not validated or if you were criticized when you made a mistake when you were younger, or, growing up in a school system where they reward perfection, of course, we don't want to make a mistake and, risk not being loved or not feeling worthy. So the protector in us is trying to assess what is that perfect next step. But what an exhausting way to do business, what an exhausting way to do life. And I know that also burns me out. So when my inner protector drives my business decisions, I tend to fall into the trap of overthinking. I get stuck in my head. I freeze, I hesitate because I'm trying to think of the perfect next move and scared to get it wrong. So to me, this is a sign that I'm building from survival mode, trying to predict every outcome, mapping out 10 steps ahead, trying to control the process. And that takes me out of my zone of genius. That takes me out of my creative flow, trusting my creative flow. And I have found through my entrepreneurial journey and life in general that when I trust my creative flow, when I trust my intuition, when I trust my body, magic unfolds. Doesn't mean I'm not thinking logically. That is always going to happen. And it doesn't mean that I don't let myself feel all my feelings, but I need to allow myself to trust my body, allow myself to trust my creative flow and have my back no matter what. Having my back no matter what is that self-trust. It's that unshakable sense of conviction in myself and my ability that has completely changed the game for me for entrepreneurship, and doing so from a joyful place and not from this stressful, white knuckling, hustling, survival mode type of doing business. Because when you have your back no matter what, things get a little bit less scary. And what I realized was that the only way forward is taking imperfect action, however painful imperfect action can be to a recovering perfectionist. The only way forward is taking imperfect, aligned micro action. And you don't have to be irresponsible, or you don't have to be completely bold without any sort of protection. I think you can do it in a safe enough way where you're not actually putting yourself at deep risk. You're not actually putting yourself in deep risk. You can de-risk that next move by creating a micro action, like an MVP version, just a little taste to see, like you can take a micro step. Oh, does this feel good? You know, it's kind of like when you take the next step before the next step appears, you don't have to put your full weight and throw your entire weight into the next step. Just, it can be taking one step and seeing, how does that feel? Does this feel safe? Okay, and next step, next step. So that creating of that safety as you take that micro step forward is really, really important so that your nervous system and your body are just continuously validated and feeling safe enough that you can stay beyond survival mode when you don't need to be in survival mode. And so what happened, going back to my story, was that after months of circling in indecision and stalling, I finally started working with a coach again. She helped me sort through all my thoughts and feelings about my options. And the first step we arrived at was, let's write my newsletter again. Simple, very doable step. But, I had all these different doubts creep in. It's been over a year. Will people judge me? What if no one cares? What if no one reads it? What is this newsletter called? What platform should I use? Who is it for? What is it about? What's my cadence? Where is this leading? Let me know if this type of questioning feels familiar to you. But in that moment, I asked myself, what if I didn't need to know that exact answer to all of these questions? What if I can trust that more clarity will come as I move? And so while there were parts of me that were still unsure and scared, and that's an important piece, it's okay to be scared. Feeling scared doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean you should do it. It just can exist. And feeling scared taking a risk is so normal. How can you logically de-risk this next action? But also, how can you hold space and befriend that feeling scared? And what does that part of you that feels scared need in this moment to feel a little bit safer? the deeper trust I had in myself was stronger in that moment because of the work that I was doing, because of the validation, because of the somatic work, all of that stuff. While there were parts of me that were still unsure and scared, the deeper trust I had in myself was stronger in that moment. And I knew the only way forward was to just start. I couldn't remain in my head forever and expect any results to happen. My baby was coming in 4 months. I was losing money by just sitting there, and I didn't want to sit in inaction for any longer. So I finally wrote that email and hit send. And sending out that first email after a year felt cathartic, vulnerable, and freaking scary. But within an hour, I started getting texts, replies. And I guess that's what happens when I also make a surprise pregnancy announcement through my email. But very quickly, things started flowing. Within days, I reconnected with old friends, had calls on the calendar, met new people in my community. I felt inspired, and suddenly it just felt easier. It didn't feel as scary. I felt encouraged to write and send my next email and my next email. I was feeling the momentum. And by email number 2 and 3, things started flowing. My updated coaching offer started taking shape. It reflected the newer direction of my work. It reflected the version of me that was emerging as I became a mother. By email number 4, I booked my first client in this new direction, which covered the cost of my own coaching investment. So with each step, things became clearer and clearer. The action itself created clarity. And it's in the step forward, the release of an experiment, the send of an email, the upload of a post, that we learn and realign. The action itself generates clarity in a way that overthinking never will. So, could I have done this alone? Maybe. But after months of paralysis, one call with my coach helped me take action within days. And having someone to hold space for my thoughts and feelings, help me process my fears, reflect my strengths back to me, talk through strategy, create a plan, eliminate overthinking, and making decisions together helped me feel safe enough, clear enough, supported enough to take the next aligned step forward, which led me to the next aligned action, which led me to the next aligned action. And so I could have forced myself through it alone, I suppose, or waited longer until inspiration struck. But it would have cost me time, frustration, and my nervous system would have probably been in survival mode trying to just do it all on my own. And it's just isn't the same asking my husband or my friends to talk through strategy, process my fears, have them read my newsletter, which I used to have my husband read every newsletter. It's like, does this sound okay? And now, I just send emails. Like I feel so good about my emails and I just send them. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. I had so many doubts. I had so many questions. And I just know that for me, having a coach who's 100% dialed in into my specific goals, my specific vision, my strategy, my strengths, my zone of genius, my challenges, and whose expertise is literally to help me with this exact challenge, whose job is literally to help me succeed, that is just invaluable. And so it's something that I treasure in my life. I absolutely love supporting my clients. I love that my job is to literally help them succeed, whatever that looks like for their life and their business. And yeah, I think of bringing on aligned support as a strategic investment in myself and in my business because I know that it'll help me get to where I want to go more quickly, with more ease, more precision, more momentum, less stress, less overwhelm, less burnout in a more expansive way than me schlepping along by myself. And especially if you are the face, voice, CEO, creative, etc. of your business, you and your nervous system were never meant to do this alone. I know that that really changed the game for me too, of how can I not just talk to the wall or my husband or friends, and how can I have someone who's literally there to help me access my genius? So, if you're currently stuck in this period of, I know I want to put something out there, I know I want to take action, I know I want to grow my business, I know I want to make moves, but I want to feel more clear on what my plan is and clear on what my next steps look like and also feel safe enough to take that risk, working with someone whose literal job is to help you de-risk that and help you make strategic moves in your business and life, then hit me up, reach out to me through my website, book a one-on-one clarity call. I'm booking out my final spot for 2025, and then I'm opening up a few more spots for a January start. I'm so, so excited to connect with you and hear about what action is brewing inside. What direction of your business and life are you envisioning? Do you feel in your body that's ready to emerge? And I can't wait to help you feel clearer on what that next move looks like, and really like putting things off your table so that you know exactly what is your focus for this next chapter. So, thank you for tuning into this episode. Remember, action precedes clarity, aligned action, imperfect action. They're your best friends for feeling that next level of clarity. And it would be an honor for me to support you on that journey. Thank you. And I'll talk to you next week.